Thank you all for being here with us today. We do have a lot of exciting things to cover, so it should probably take roughly about 45 minutes or so, and maybe a little longer, if all of you have a lot of questions. But today I will be opening up by sharing the top 5 destinations that maybe you have and maybe you haven't considered before, and why, you should consider traveling with Collette to visit those destinations and what do we do in these places that will really make it unforgettable and a lifetime memory that you can share, maybe with your grandkids. And then we'll touch on the top 5 mistakes that you should avoid. And of course, we'll chat a little bit about, what are some pro tips that you can get, not just to avoid those mistakes, but to actually, what you could do to turn it around. So let's get started. My name is Danielle Martins, and I'm a sales support manager with Collette. And I have been proudly representing the company, I guess, for almost 8 years. Very lucky. I've been in the travel industry pretty much my entire life, ever you know, when I got out of college, so many, many years ago, and lucky to be with Collette and have been able to travel and experience it firsthand, what guided tour is like, and specifically what it's like to choose a company like Collette that is really leading the evolution of guided travel. Because there's a lot of misconceptions about what is it like to travel in a guided tour, and Collette is really breaking the mold and doing things differently. So when you go on tour, you could truly have a trip of a lifetime. So these are just some of my pictures, some of the amazing places I've been very fortunate to go. I literally just came back from Turkey for our sales conference. So of course, I'm bringing a lot of information on Turkey for you, hot off the press. And before we get started, I do have a video to get you thinking about what it's like to travel guided. So let's get started.
On your left, the House of Parliament. On your right, the Tower of London. On your left, Buckingham Palace. Right, Piccadilly Circus. Left, Trafalgar Square. Right, Lewisham. Left, the upfields of Kent. And here we are at the seaside. Everybody back on the coach! Everybody back on the coach!
All right. So
Definitely
I
the
really
stereotype. Yeah.
Yes, funny enough, a lot of people still think that this is what guided touring is like. So I hope that's not the vision that you have. But if you do, trust me, this is far from what we are accomplishing and what we do. Now, Collette is the experts in guided travel. So if you've never heard of us, we've only been around for 107 years. I like to say that we've been around long enough to know what works and what doesn't work. So when you go on tour, you could truly have a trip of a lifetime. We are a family-run operation. We have been around for many, many years with more than 175 tours all across 7 different continents. So literally, there's something out there for anybody. And like I said, we're leading the evolution of guided travel. We're doing things differently. We are breaking the mold. And as I go through the presentation, I will point out some of these things that we're doing differently. So these are not itineraries that are just those cookie cutter experiences. And our mission statement is to enhance life's journey by creating extraordinary experiences. So this is truly our goal when you go on tour. And I always like to share a little bit of a story about the fact that we are a financially stable company and debt-free. Because, I mean, you all know what happened during COVID. And even though we would like to forget, the travel industry completely shut down. And Collette, what we did during that time, just sharing a little bit, certainty of the kind of company that we are. We basically gave back over $180 million in refunds to people. And that's because we really believe that we had to do the right thing. If you didn't get to travel, we didn't get to earn anybody's money. And of course, we were only able to do that because we are in such a great position. And it was not a voucher for future travel. We actually gave people their full refund.
Yeah.
So that's a
Wow.
little bit background on Collette. Let's get started on these amazing destinations that we're covering today. So South America, Japan, Turkey, Africa, and Scandinavia. These are just some of the places that maybe you haven't considered before, and I'm here to tell you why you should consider. Now, starting with Africa, we have many, many tours to Africa. And funny enough, Africa, it's actually selling really well right now. I think because maybe post-COVID, people are realizing they gotta get out there and they gotta get that bucket list item checked off their list. So they've been saving a lot of money and now they want to do something different. So we're seeing a lot of these exotic destinations pop up and people really want to go out and explore. And traveling to Africa, it's more than just seeing safaris. We are talking about a life-changing experience that changes how you see the world because of the way that you connect with the people and the local culture. And this is what we're doing actually to break the mold. We want to get you out there, really immersing yourself into the culture, and having just things that are unique, seeing things that are off the beaten path. Now, some of the destinations that we go in Africa, of course, South Africa, it's a big one. Exploring South Africa, Victoria Falls in Botswana. It's probably our number one tour when it comes to Africa. But we do have East Africa as well. Usually for people that have visited Africa once, they tend to return as a second time traveler to East Africa and go visit Kenya and Tanzania. This is for the diehard. I really want to see only safaris. So if you're looking for something a little bit more balanced, then maybe I would start with South Africa. Then we also have Morocco, which is very, very popular, and Egypt and Jordan. So these are just some of the places that we visit. And one of the big highlights and unforgettable moments is when we go to Victoria Falls in Botswana. And there is no best time of year to visit Victoria Falls. Yes, if you want to see the real power of the waters, maybe you're going right after rainy season towards the month of March. But you can really go to South Africa any time of the year. Whale watching, it's towards July. If you want to get up close and do the walking tour of Victoria Falls and really see a little bit less of the mist, but more of the landscape, maybe you choose to go towards the end of the year. But no matter what, Victoria Falls is a beautiful location. It is one of just as beautiful as Niagara Falls for those that have been, if not more. And so that's just something for you to compare with. But of course, Africa is about the safaris. We want to see the animals. We want to feel awake because that's what you're going to feel when you travel. It's all about that novelty. And trust me, when you see a lion, right up close, well, maybe not that close, but very up close, you will feel alive and your heart starts beating very fast. And it's just so much fun to go in search of the big five. And when we go to Africa, the nice thing is it almost feels like a private tour. Most of our tours are small groups. So we're talking on average about 18 people only. And because everybody it's on the 4x4, and usually depends on the tour that you pick, it's either 4 or 6 people. It feels like a private tour, and everybody has a different experience in going out and searching for the elusive big five. The elephants are one of them, but the lion is another one. And I curious if you actually all know, type in the chat if you know what all five are. I'm curious if you're all gonna get it
Yeah,
right.
I'll throw it to the audience to contribute an
Yes,
answer to that if you know.
let's see if you get it right. If
Yeah.
not, you just gotta travel to Africa to find out. Another thing that we do that I absolutely love, and it goes back to connecting you with the culture, is getting to know a local family. So, for instance, when we're in Cape Town, we go for dinner with a local family. They open their doors to their houses for us, and we go to a home hosted meal. Now, just imagine, I didn't tell you this, but I was born and raised in São Paulo, Brazil. And imagine if I were to invite you to come to Brazil with me, and we go into my grandmother's house, and she cooks for us a recipe that has been going on, from generations and generations in our family. And then we sit down for dinner and we talk. What was it like growing up in Brazil? How is it different than living in Canada or in the United States? So this is the sort of experience that people are going to have when they travel with Collette. So it's truly phenomenal. And, it's really the sort of authentic experiences that you can expect when you travel with us. Now, here are some of the other things that we do. Of course, when we're in Egypt, everybody wants to check off the bucket list items, seeing the pyramids of Giza, the seven wonders of the world. So that is an inclusion as part of your tour. We do embark on a 7-day night cruise along the Nile. And of course, you're going to get to hear the call to prayer, maybe, listen from your tour manager all about the secrets of the Nile, which is one of the longest rivers. And a lot of fun. You can see me up there on this picture. You do get to dress up and join a fun and very traditional and authentic Galabea party. So I hope you're, ready to have some fun on these tours. And then another thing that we do in Jordan, of course, everybody wants to go visit Petra. It's just a lot of history. It's breathtaking. When you get there, you don't even know where to look. It's known as the Rose Red City. So absolutely phenomenal, and it is an option for you. And last but not least, more on Africa. We do in Morocco tour, we do get to experience the Sahara Desert. And we do not just go and leave very quickly. We actually get to stay 3 nights in the desert because, like I said, we want you immersing yourself into the culture, learning about the nomads and what is it like, moving around because funny enough, there are people like this that still do not have a house that it's, set in one place. They move around. And you do get to enjoy a 2-night luxury tented camp stay. I think they called it what, glamping or something like that.
Yeah.
Yep. So you will get to experience it. It's phenomenal. Camel ride experience available both in Egypt and Morocco tour. So, I mean, you can see me having the time of my life when we enter Egypt. The only thing I do not recommend, it goes back to some of those mistakes that we're going to cover. Do not wear a dress when you're riding the camel. I mean, it may look good in the picture, but probably not
No,
a good idea.
no.
So that's one pro tip from me. Um, and then another thing that we do in Morocco, we will explore Fez, which is one of the holiest Muslim cities in the world. And there's just so much to learn from their different customs and traditions, and, connecting with the local people. All right, so let's get into Japan. I absolutely love Japan. My parents have actually gone on the Collette trip to Japan, the cultural treasures of Japan. We basically have different options. You can either travel with a big group of 44 people, or you can travel in a smaller group, which would be Japan past and present, which is roughly around 16 people. So make sure you keep that in mind when you're choosing your tour. We do have different options, but basically we're exploring the amazing cities of Tokyo, Osaka. We recently have a brand new tour that does South Korea because, I mean, if you're going all the way out there, then you might as well also visit Seoul. Seoul, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Sorry, sometimes my Portuguese sort of comes through, so I apologize if sometimes I butcher some of these words.
No problem.
Um, but anyways, what we do in Japan, of course, we will be visiting Fushimi Naritasha. So this is very famous for most of you that have seen the memoirs of a geisha. They do show some of the pictures and, just going around and seeing the torii, the orange torii, which basically represents the gate. And it's a symbol between once you cross the gate, you're sort of going from the mundane world into the sacred world. So very, very interesting. Japan in itself, there's just so much about their culture that it's so different from us that we can learn. Starting with a Japanese tea ceremony. This is a lot of fun. And it's not just a regular tea ceremony. This is a way that they do. It's a long-lasting tradition, and it's sort of like a ritual. And it's all about the care that goes into the process. And it's really a symbol of top-notch hospitality for Japanese. You're also going to get to do gold leaf decorating and stenciling. So this is a picture of, everybody having the tea ceremony. And another famous thing is hopping into that bullet train because it just goes so fast. And when you're in Japan, you gotta try it. And then another part of, a little bit of a sad part of the trip, but part of the history of Japan is visiting Hiroshima. And I know here a lot of times we will say Hiroshima, but that's actually not how you pronounce it because Japanese, they don't really have the accent. So it's supposed to be Hiroshima. Peace Park, we visit, and also the Memorial Museum. I mean, we're talking about 70,000 people that suffered, fatal injuries or died. Another 70,000 who actually died from radiation. So it's sad, but it's part of the history, and of course we include it so you get to learn all about it. Now, another thing that is actually one of my favorites is participating in a sushi making class. Yes, you will get your hands dirty, but trust me, it's a lot of fun. And if it does not taste good, you do not have to try your own creation. Nobody's gonna go hungry. We'll bring you some other options. Oops, I skipped a little bit ahead. Um, Now, other things that we do, you meet Japan's AMA pearl divers. I don't know if you've heard of this elite profession, but basically, these are amazing women that go out there and they dive. And even though they're wearing, like the what do you call it, like their swimsuits and everything, they do not wear any oxygen masks. So they hold their breaths and they go in search of pearls. So you're gonna get to experience firsthand, you're gonna watch the demonstration, see the museum, and just learn all about, their practice. We also dive very deep into the culture when we visit the Women's Association of Kyoto. We will be having dinner, and you get to learn all about it firsthand from the Japanese and the tour manager about their customs. you enjoy a traditional multi-course kizeki meal. Now, the meal itself, I don't know why my pictures are not coming up, but what it means, it's an art, basically. It's this multi-course of many, many meals, and it's delicious. I mean, my mom has a lot of restrictions when it comes to eating and like gluten sensitivity, and she just absolutely loved this multi-course meal. So trust me, it's a very exciting because part of learning about a culture, I find that it's experiencing their food and their wine and their spices. So I hope you're adventurous because, that's gonna be part of these tours. And then in Korea, you will get to join a North Korean defector for a private and quite emotional discussion about their escape and what their new life is like in South Korea. Okay, up next is Turkey. I'm so excited.
You just came back from there a couple days ago, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
we were there for about 12 days
Yeah.
and I came back on Sunday. So literally 3 days
Couple
ago, I
days.
had
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
been. And so we only have one tour to Turkey. We do have another faith-based tour that sort of passes through Turkey a little bit, but this is basically the highlight. And of course, Istanbul is included, ancient Ephesus, and then we do a post extension to Cappadocia, which is just absolutely phenomenal. We do not do the balloon ride, but of course, it's a huge part of being in Cappadocia. So you will have some time to basically book it independently if this is something that you would like to experience. The only reason why we don't include it because we understand it's not for everybody. Some people are afraid of heights. So we don't want to include
Sure.
something that it's not going to be enjoyable for everybody. All right, so you will get to sample Istanbul's most iconic sites. And of course, one of the first ones is the beautiful, beautiful Blue Mosque. I mean, very impressive domes and minarets. So that's just me experiencing Blue Mosque. And the nice thing is our tour managers are just phenomenal. They have such a wealth of knowledge into these destinations. So you're going to get to hear all the history about these places that we visit. We also do a cruise of the Bosphorus, which is basically, you're going to get to see the European side and the Asian side and hear all about it. Another insider tip from somebody that just returned, make sure you dress in layers. Like any cruise, sometimes the wind can get a little bit chilly. There is an indoor part of it that, you can sit down and, have a glass of wine, a very expensive glass of wine. I'll let you know ahead of time already, but, it's part of the experience. Right? When in Rome, you might as well do
Yeah.
what the Romans were doing.
Right.
Um, Now, the other thing that just blew me away is walking through the ruins of ancient Ephesus and in the footsteps of Paul the Apostle. For those of you that are a little bit more religious, these are some of my pictures. Many beautiful cats all over Turkey, and it almost feel like they're posing for us. And some of them are quite groomed. I was very impressed. But just beautiful. It's amazing to think that, this city, it's still there and you can see how they're preserving everything. We do try to get there early in the morning because trust me, there's lineups of people to see this amazing location. So we don't want to be standing in line for too long. And then we also will get you tasting your way around Istanbul's Golden Horn District and the Spice Market. But that's not just it. One of my favorite parts was visiting the Grand Bazaar. Now, even if you're not into shopping, this was just such a fun experience. We basically almost had like a local tour guide, when we went into this store to buy lamps, he was just so friendly, and the hospitality. He actually took us around different stores. I actually wanted to buy a gold necklace. I don't know if you can all see it, but I ended up buying this beautiful evil eye necklace, and he pointed out the stores that I should be going to so that, I wouldn't be buying fake gold. So people are just so nice, and it was one of my favorite parts of the trip. The Grand Bazaar has been around for over 600 years. It's one of the largest covered markets in the world. And it's actually among the number one tourist attractions that it's most visited in the world. So, of course, we're going to take you there.
Yeah.
And last but not least, for Turkey, we visit Hagia Sophia, another place full of history, and you're going to get to learn it firsthand from your tour manager. But beautiful, beautiful area. It's a church sort of turned into a mosque, and just a true sort of embodiment of Byzantine architecture for those of you that are into it. Now, South America, I'm going to cover this fairly quick because we still have lots to cover. And I do have a quick video for all of you that sort of embraces what we do in South America. But just very quickly, we do spend 2 nights in Mendoza, which is South America's famous wine country. I hope some of you are wine lovers because this is just like a fabulous part of the trip. Wine tasting, wine pairing, it's some of the things you can expect. You will learn the art of tango when we're in Buenos Aires. You actually get to have a lesson on tango. So it's a lot of fun and a great way to mingle with the locals. Now, another thing that we do is get you trying the yerba mate tea, another drink that it's basically steeped in tradition, like the tea ceremony in Japan and also in Turkey. When you're shopping at the Grand Bazaar, if you're there for a while, they will offer you some tea because that's just, them being nice and it's a hospitality. So, even if you don't like tea, maybe accept it, have just a little tip, just to try it, so they don't feel offended. And the other thing, we visit the biggest Santiago Central Market with a chef, and then you actually get to cook and prepare your own seafood lunch with the findings that you got from the market. So very, very immersive, very authentic, fun experience. And then we visit the Gauchos, which is like the South American cowboys, and you're gonna get to taste the most delicious asado, which is like their version of a barbecue. And it happens at an estancia, which is basically, if we were to translate it, it's like a ranch. The last picture that popped up in there, it's one of the beautiful hotels that we stay in. For Collette tours, we usually stay at 4-star hotel accommodations, but this tour in particular, we have a lot of 5-star beautiful properties, and we list them ahead of time. So right on our website, you can find out where you're going to be staying. So let's get to that video. All right, just a quick teaser. And last but not least, my home country, Brazil. We do have a post extension to Brazil for South America. I mean, if you're going all the way out there, you might as well check off one of the 7 wonders of the world, which is Iguazu Falls. You actually get to see the falls from the Brazilian side as well as the Argentina side. We go the Devil's Eye. So there's basically, I mean, it's breathtaking and it's a must. So if you're doing South America, make sure that you sign up for the extension. All right, now Scandinavia. Most people have not even considered Scandinavia, and it's also selling quite well for us. And people just, come back raving about the beauty of these countries. So I felt like I needed to bring this for you.
Sure.
There's a lot of Scandinavian countries actually. So Norway is one of them. We have Finland, we have Iceland. So there's different options of tours that you get to select from. And so Bergen is one of the second largest cities in Norway, where you're going to get to see just a very cute city, as you can see there in the picture. You will get to ride the Flam Railway, which is one of the world's steepest train rides. If you choose the highlights of Norway tour, we also get to cruise through one of the world's most famous fjords. And I mean, it's not most famous for any reason. It's just the beauty of it. It's just breathtaking. Some of you may have heard that's actually where they have like a smaller waterfall. And it's just very, very beautiful and breathtaking. Now, along the way, you will visit this masterpiece of medieval Norwegian architecture, which is the Stave Church. Just absolutely beautiful. And it was built in dedication of the Apostle Andrew. So if you're religious, just keep that in mind. But it's just very, very beautiful scenery and exciting things to see along the way. Now, when we are in Finland, to me, the biggest highlight is, of course, that you get to spend a night in a glass igloo. This is just absolutely beautiful. And of course, if you pick a time of year that is Northern Lights season, then you will get out there and explore and go in search of the Northern Lights. Now, I mean, just close your eyes and imagine you're lying in your bed and there's like this glass igloo and then Northern Lights is happening. And I mean, we can't guarantee the Northern Lights, but hopefully when you're there, you'll get to see it. It's just a once in a lifetime experience. It doesn't get any better. But we also want to get you up close with the locals, and that means taking you on your own dog sled team. So this is what you can expect, like reindeer train ride, safari, I should say it. Like I mentioned, the guided Aurora Borealis search. So there's a lot of things that we do in Finland. And if you love the winter, I know most Canadians are trying to get away of the winter, but this is still a fabulous experience that I totally recommend. And last but not least is Iceland. Just so many amazing things to see in Iceland. One of the big highlights, we will take you to visit the Lava Exhibition Center. So you're going to get to learn all about the volcanic nature, geothermal activity in the country. So it's a lot of fun. Of course, depending on the tour that you choose, there is an inclusion for the mineral rich water of the Blue Lagoon. But even if you don't visit the Blue Lagoon, we also have Sky Lagoon included, which is just as exciting and just as beautiful. So just keep that in mind. And then, of course, the Golden Circle, because if you're going to visit Iceland, this is a must. So for those of you that don't know, it's a 300-kilometer route that has many of Iceland's most beautiful natural wonders. So one of them is Thingvellir National Park. The other one is the famous geyser, which basically erupts every 10 to 15 minutes. So it's just the power of it is just absolutely amazing. And then the Golden Waterfalls, or Gullfoss, as they call it. So that's all included when you choose to go to Scandinavia. But as David mentioned, just for being here today and for being a super ager, you actually get to save $100 per person on any of our tours. You can just go to the link that we're sharing here, and if you like booking online, you can book online, no problem. Just use the promo code SuperAging Save to get your $100 discount, or you can call us directly, and you still need to mention the promo code to get your discount. But either way, you're getting some
And
savings.
we will send that out in the follow-up email that you'll get tomorrow.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you so
so
much,
that's
David.
good.
Yes, that makes it so much easier because I
I
mean,
want to
who
I just want to jump
like
in
a
for one.
saving?
Yeah, I just want to jump in for 1 second before we get into the mistake part. Um, it strikes me, and I'm thinking back to that hilarious video we showed at the beginning of the stereotype of a group tour or a bus tour or a guided tour. What strikes me is how, and this is, I want to mention it because it plays into what I think the super aging audience really wants to, which is you use the word immersive. I mean, you're doing things. You're not just driving past and looking from the outside looking in while a guide describes it to you, or even getting out and walking through a building and a guide's pointing. You're cooking, you're dancing, you're meeting people in their homes. So is that kind of the way you guys are trying to reimagine and recreate what it means to go on a group tour? So it isn't just that barrier between, oh, okay, here comes another busload of tourists, that stereotype, that you're putting them in the middle of the experience to some degree.
You're 100% correct, David. This is exactly what we're doing and how we're doing things differently. So people really have that authentic experience. And we do have different types of tours. We have the classic, which it's the larger group, and you can expect more of the must-sees. So if you haven't been to a destination and you really want to make sure that those must-sees are there, then by all means, just look for a classic tour. But if you sort of been there, done that, or maybe you really want to make sure that those immersive experiences are on another level, we take it an extra step further in our exploration tours, which are the small group tours that on average is about 19 people.
Yeah, so this is important because also we promised top 5 destinations. When I looked through the list, it was probably the top 105 because each one of these has multiple possibilities. And that's why it's so important to let everybody know too that we are going to be um, posting this entire webinar on our website and promoting it again. And it lives on, not just today, because there's so much information to go through and we want to share it with as many people as possible. So just a reminder, we will send you that link for the promo code. And now let's take a look at, okay, you're going to have all these wonderful experiences. What a shame if they get spoiled by rookie mistakes or mistakes that we can avoid. And I know in talking to Danielle before the meeting, for the webinar, you guys have seen it all. So if anybody has a long list of don't do this, oh my gosh, what were you thinking? It would be Collette. So with that sort of good-hearted spirit in mind, what are these mistakes to avoid?
Absolutely. So number one mistake is overpacking. Definitely do not want to do that. And I mean, there's just so many reasons. Not being open-minded. And of course, I'll dive deeper into what that means. Too many activities all into one trip. Probably not a great idea to make the most out of your trip. Not enough travel insurance. That is a big one that we see happen a lot of time. And not checking cell phone coverage. So these are some of the 5 top mistakes that we see. So let's dive a little bit deeper into what they are. Why is it even a problem? I mean, when you think of overpacking, there's a lot of physical challenges, logistical challenges, and then of course, mental and emotional challenges. If you're overpacking, you have heavy luggage, which makes it very hard to move around. And for those of you that enjoy traveling in Europe, all of our tours with Collette, the porterage fee is already included as part of the trip, and we do take care of your luggage for you. However, especially in Europe, a lot of the hotels are pushing back on including that
It's
portage fee
interesting.
and making sure that, that person is there to help. Sometimes it's just there's stairs in front of the hotel. So if you bring that big luggage, then out of a sudden you are risking being the one to be carrying that heavy luggage around. So of course, a lot of mobility issues, not to mention like the fatigue of carrying a heavy luggage, baggage fees, excessive baggage fees, and sometimes you may not realize, for example, in Turkey, we had internal flights that had a lower limit for the luggage than your international flight. So
Right.
that means you got to pay extra if you overpack.
Right.
Um, so overall, it's just limited flexibility. I certainly do not recommend this for you, not to mention that a luggage that is overpacked, there's a higher risk of one being damaged because when, the airline people are throwing those luggages around, if they're very heavy, there's a higher chance of damage. And also, there is a higher chance of you losing your things because you've packed so much that sometimes it's easier to forget something behind because you barely know what it's in the luggage.
Yeah,
All right.
exactly.
So how do we overcome that? Of course, we want to pack light. And how do we pack light? Well, we start by making a list. Yes, a list of only the essentials because funny enough, we'll put a lot of things in there. And then if you do sort of like a, a final check of your luggage when you're all done, you realize that you've put more than you need. So then you can start removing things that you don't actually need. So that's another great pro tip. Once you've packed, sort of redo everything because I'm sure you can remove some things that are not essential. So all this goes back to planning ahead because if you're packing right when you're leaving, you may not have time to do all of these preparation. Another thing is make sure that you limit the amount of shoes that you bring. Shoes are very heavy. And if you bring something comfortable and that it's not maybe too colorful, that it can go, that it's versatile, which kind of goes back to my next topic of choosing a versatile clothing, then maybe all you need is the shoe that you're traveling with and maybe one extra pair that goes in the luggage. And another pro tip, if on your return home, you find that your luggage is, very heavy, if you have space in your carry-on, just make sure you remove your shoes and you put it in your carry-on because they're so heavy and the carry-on is traveling with you. So it's a great way instead of trying to pick a bunch of shirts and like, I wonder if it's enough weight or not. So that's one thing. Now, also choosing versatile clothing. Again, it goes back to picking one item of clothing that sort of goes with everything. Maybe it's a pair of jeans, a jean jacket, clothes that are very light in fabric. And I always like to pack things that don't wrinkle so that, when I open my luggage, it doesn't look like, as my mom would say, it came out of a cow's mouth.
Yeah.
So, those are things for you to keep in mind and neutral colors because yes, maybe you have a couple of shirts that, are a little bit more, that have a little bit more color and that's okay. But if you pick neutral colors, it's easy to mix and match and even reuse it and you don't feel like, like if you wear something that it's very out there, it's harder to repeat. But if you wear something that it's white, it's much easier. Okay, so those are just some ideas. And then use packing cubes. Those are really great if you don't know what those are. It's just basically like a little thing that you put your clothes inside and it just keeps it nice and tidy and organized. And this helps you overpack and also keep things packed in a beautiful way so you're not overloading your luggage. So these are just some ideas. One thing that I always like to touch on is your hair products. What I started doing, I either bring, like as if you were traveling and with only a carry-on that you bring like a little version of a shampoo, because let's face it, every single hotel has the shampoo and the conditioner, and those are very heavy, so you don't need that in your luggage. And even if you feel like you can bring just a little one, and if you need more, you can purchase it in the location where you're at. Okay, so that's another great tip. But one thing you do not want to forget is your medication. A lot of people tend to forget that. If there's prescription medication you need to bring, that needs to go in your luggage and preferably in your carry-on luggage. I always put my jewelry, expensive things, purses, shoes, one set of clothing in my carry-on luggage. If my big luggage gets lost, I still have, a set of pants, shirt, maybe underwear, and I don't need to go shopping right away. So keep that in mind. Okay, this is just a picture of like one of my light shirts when I went to Egypt. Very easy, non-wrinkle. This is a great idea when I was in Greece. Jean jacket, plain black pants, white shirt, comfortable shoes. That's all you need. All right, so these are some of the benefits. Physical benefits, logistical benefits, financial benefits, and emotional benefits. There's so many of them, so make sure that you pack light. All right, up next is not having enough insurance or not even having insurance at all, which is even worse. A lot of financial risks involved, health and safety concerns, travel disruptions, and your peace of mind is out the way if you do not have insurance. I know most people, the whole idea of not getting insurance is so they could save money, but if something were to happen, basically goes against what your initial goal was, which was to save money because unexpected medical expenses, and it doesn't matter where you are in the world, they can be quite costly, especially if it involves an emergency evacuation. So you do not want to be caught on that. Now, the other thing is there's many types of insurance. There's the trip cancellation, there's medical insurance, travel delay, baggage insurance, and not just one type will cover you for everything. So you definitely want to sort of plan and look for the different options out there. Another thing when it comes to health and safety concern is that sometimes if you don't have the insurance, you actually may not get access to the best quality of medical care. And let's face it, if something are to happen, this is like a stressful situation. The least thing you want is to be in a country where maybe you don't get access to the quality medical care. So just keep that in mind. They may even force you to get back home for treatment. Not to mention, the travel disruptions like flight delays. Flight delays are more common than ever, I find, or even cancellations. So you want to be prepared, and also your peace of mind speaks volume because having that insurance to cover those financial risks, it is a financial protection for you on any unforeseen events. So how do you plan what to do about it? You definitely research. I mean, don't believe just me and the insurance that we sell. Go out there, research many different companies, compare the policy details, and see if they are good for your own needs because everybody has different conditions or lack thereof. So you want to make sure that this specific insurance is good for you as a traveler. Okay. And you want to be honest and upfront. You want to disclose any pre-existing conditions to avoid not being covered. And then you also want to review and update because maybe you have an annual insurance through your work, that was great 10 years ago, but maybe now that you have a specific health condition, it's no longer being good for you and you no longer have coverage. So you definitely want to review your policy every time you go on a trip. And then I certainly recommend listening to people's reviews and other travelers. I mean, keep in mind that, reviews can go either way. I wouldn't trust them 100%, but it gives you a place to start. So it's definitely something that I would check. These are just some of the benefits I mentioned with having insurance, peace of mind, financial protection, and emergency assistance. Now, since we're talking about insurance, I do want to share some details about our insurance. It is canceled for any reason, which is just phenomenal, up until 24 hours prior to departure date. So you can cancel and get a full refund, not a voucher for future travel. We will give you your full refund. So that's really great. You're fully protected. You do not need any medical questionnaires, and that is alone. It's a great peace of mind, and it's just nice and easy. And we do have low premiums. Our insurance runs around $600, sometimes even $500. It depends on the tour that you choose, which is very low premium. And it does not matter if you're 18 or 100, you actually pay the exact same rate. So that is, again, a great benefit to all of our travelers. And you are fully covered on the emergency medical aspect, including pre-existing conditions, as long as you've been stable for 7 days prior to departure, which is almost unheard of when you do your research, because I know you're going to do it now that you're watching this webinar. You're going to find out that most companies only have pre-existing clause for 30 or 60 days. Ours is 7 days. So it's truly phenomenal. Now, not checking cell phone coverage. I mean, obviously, communication challenges along the way. It's a big one. Navigation and information, practical issues, and safety and security. When it comes to communication, staying in touch with your loved ones back home is a big one. But also, maybe you arrived at the airport and you're supposed to be picked up by a transfer and they're not there. How are you going to reach out to them? The best ways to make sure you have that cell phone coverage. Not to mention emergency situations. That's probably the major ones where you definitely want to have a cell phone. Maybe you need to call 911. Maybe you need to find how to get away from a street that it's looking a little bit rough. Probably that won't happen on a guided tour unless you're being adventurous during your free time. But it could happen, and you want to be prepared to do your navigation, looking for directions. I mentioned I was in Turkey. We used our cell phone coverage to find out how to take the bus to the Grand Bazaar because I went a day early before the entire Collette team was there, and we wanted to take the local transport. But we needed cell phone coverage to find out how to do it. Other things, maybe you arrive and your hotel reservation is booked the wrong day and you need to fix or make a new booking. Now you're going to need internet. So, I mean, cell phone and internet sort of goes hand in hand. Maybe you need to take an Uber somewhere. And actually, one of the reasons why I signed up for cell phone and internet coverage was because I wanted to post my social media pictures. So, just to stay in touch with everybody back home and share the fabulous time I was having. So what can you do about it? International roaming, it's a great way. Maybe you call your local provider here at home and find out how much do they charge. But my favorite one is actually buying a local SIM card. And that can be done at the airport, especially if you're traveling in Europe. It's very easy. You can just look for a store. There is, though, if you don't want to, if you don't know where to find the local SIM card place, you can, excuse me, you can download an app that it's called Airaloo, and it's a mobile app, and you can actually download a eSIM card right into your phone, get a plan. There's countries all over the world. They're very cheap. I'm not affiliated with it, but I have used it when I travel to France. It works beautifully. So those are some great tips. This is what the app looks like if you decide to do eSIM. My
Interesting.
favorite one is this, like this was one that I found out in Turkey, for instance, right at the airport. I took this picture. And this is my favorite one all across Europe, Vodafone. It works really well, and you can buy your SIM card. And then there's also no risk because you take your own SIM card out and you put in the local SIM card. There's no risk that you're going to get charged to ICE, which it has happened to me with a eSIM card because I didn't know how to do the settings properly. So you got to pick your battles and see what works best for you. So these are just some of the great things that you get out of it: safety, convenience, and peace of mind. All right, now packing too many activities into one trip. This is something you do not want to do. If you travel like a company like Collette, this will not happen because we've done all the planning for you. But if you choose not to go guided and not to choose Collette, then make sure you're looking out for this because there's nothing worse than having that physical and mental exhaustion from doing too much. You can't even sleep because when you lay your head in the pillow, there's just so much going on from that day and you're exhausted. And you have that feeling when you get home that you need another vacation from your vacation. So, there's just a very reduced enjoyment. You're rushing from one place to the other. And it goes back to missing out on what David and I were talking about, fully immersing yourself into these authentic experiences. If you're going from one place to another, like a madman, it's just too hard to really embrace the authentic experiences and connect with the local people, which is what I find brings joy to us as human beings. And those are the happy moments you're going to remember and you're going to tell your grandkids when you come home from your trip. So obviously there is increased stress involved with not overdoing it. And the way you do it is you either choose a company like Collette that somebody has done it for you, or you need to prioritize. Prioritize what is most important. You definitely want to leave some free time. There's something about free time because sometimes if you're rushing and the free time is there for you to people watch, to try that local coffee or that local gelato in Italy, people watch. So definitely put in some free time in there. Consider travel time, which a lot of people sometimes they forget. You got to plan. How long is it going to take me to get from one place to another? And then just be flexible altogether when planning your trip. So these are some of the things that you get to enjoy by not overpacking things, definitely relaxation and enjoyment, and just an enhanced and more fulfilling travel experience altogether. It allows an opportunity for spontaneity. Most people get a lot of joy from moments that are spontaneous, and you have higher chances of meeting your own expectations when you don't have too much planned into one. And then, like I said, improved sleep because you're not just over rushing. Now, these are actually some of the reasons why travelers love going with Collette. We do this really well. We do fewer one-night stays so you can really immerse yourself. We believe in time spent in destination and not driving between them. And then we do balanced itinerary. We have these designers that are curating every experience so you don't have to, and they are planned with a balance of guided exploration and some free time, which goes back to one of the myths of guided tour. Most people think there's no free time, and that is not the case. We understand everybody has their own passions and want to go pursue different things. So free time is always available on all of our tours. All right, so this is the last one, not being open-minded. So what does that mean, Danielle? Well, it goes back to cultural differences. Sometimes we travel because we want that novelty. But as soon
Yeah.
as we get there and things are a little bit different than what we enjoy from back home, we tend to start complaining. And that means you're not being open-minded enough, open-minded to new customs, open-minded to new foods, new traditions. So that's what I mean. It could be cultural differences that will create maybe some misunderstandings along the way. Maybe your idea of personal space is very different than, people in Japan use as their, that bubble. Limited experiences. It could happen. You miss out on a lot of opportunities and enjoyment because you're not being open-minded enough. You didn't try a specific thing. And that basically left no space for personal growth. And it's not just personal growth while you're in destination, but sometimes this sort of translates when you return home because it makes you appreciate better what you have and you enjoy about being home. And also for those of you that are Canadians, I mean, we live in a country that has a lot of immigrants, and it makes you appreciate what they maybe go through when they come to Canada. Because when you travel, maybe you're the one who's struggling with ordering a meal or, and it speaks volumes about our
That's,
own impatience
yeah,
when we travel, right?
yeah.
And you're not being open-minded. You're like, oh, maybe I need to be a little bit more patient. So, how do you fix those things? You research, you prepare. What is the customs in that country? What should I do or not do? What is personal space for them? In Latin America, I mean, I mentioned I'm from Brazil. When we say hi to people, it's giving two kisses. This is not very common in most countries around the world. So just prepare and be curious. Be curious. What is it like in other countries? And of course, just always be respectful. If it's different, you don't have to like it. You just have to be respectful. So I think that's very number one. And then just be flexible. Flexible that things may be a little bit different than what you're used to. This is me being open-minded in Turkey and trying new things. I did not want to miss the opportunity. So, and funny enough, pomegranate tea, it's not something that I have ever tried or enjoy back home, but I did try in Turkey and I loved it so much that I actually brought some home. Pomegranate tea and green apple tea. If you're ever in Turkey, make sure you try those.
Great.
This is another way that maybe you want to be open-minded in Turkey. If you don't know what this means, is usually in front of a washroom, and this is what you can expect. Uh, Maybe we
Oh,
don't want to be
yeah.
that much open-minded, but this is what traveling is all about,
Yeah,
right?
sure, sure.
All right, so these are the final things of
Great.
benefit being open-minded. Go ahead.
And
You
I
want to
want to
say?
add one thing before we just hold on this slide for him, but I want to add one thing about the open-minded. And we've written about this on the SuperAging website, is
Okay.
that unfamiliar experiences are good for brain health. The brain wants novelty. The brain wants you to be not in a dangerous situation, but there's nothing wrong with puzzling out a map, learning a new language. We've written about this a lot. And the science, there's actually science behind it that travel itself and especially new experiences while you travel contribute to longevity because especially they work against an erosion of cognitive power in the brain. So when your brain is forced into new situations and has to look at new things, it's good for your health and longevity as well. So here's your link to the travel credit, SuperAging Save. And I think also we have some extra unannounced bonuses for our attendees if you want to talk about that before. We're going to say goodbye in a minute, but just before we do.
We do. But before I go on, David, you touched on something really interesting because novelty is why most people are looking to travel.
Yes,
They're in search of that. And when you do it guided, you have a combination of that certainty that things will be safe and that it's not going to get you completely out of your comfort zone, but you have all that novelty. So it's like that blend of
yes,
together. So that's just
right,
something I find really cool.
for
So
sure.
this is extra discounts. We do have this happening until the end of May. So for those of you that would like to book a tour, if you do it with the air, we currently have an air promotion, which for economy air, you can save an additional 50% on the air piece. And if you're upgrading to either business class or first class, business premium, then you can save 25% on the air. So, and that is
Wonderful,
combinable with your $100 travel discount. So
wonderful.
that's very great. All
Great.
right, so these are just some final remarks on Collette and why travelers say that they love going on tour with us. I think I touched on most of these already. So I have one final video and then we'll see what kind of questions you have out there on the chat.
How many times have you told yourself, someday you'll travel to that special place? The place you've spoken about, dreamed about. It's so close, you can almost feel it. The warmth of the sun, the sound of music you've never heard before, the discovery of a new flavor. Today isn't like any other day. Today is the day where you set off for new horizons. Stop waiting for the perfect time and make this time perfect. This is your trip of a lifetime. Someday you'll travel to that special place. Your someday is here.